So I started, trawling the bookshelves, and I read this book on internet marketing, and before long I was, building affiliate sites, selling all sorts of random dodgy product.
Welcome back to the Teach Traffic podcast with myself, Ilana Wexler. This is a show where we reveal the best tips, tricks and tactics to increasing your website traffic and then converting that traffic into leads and sales. We also discuss what's working right now in the ever-changing world of web marketing so you can apply it to your business. We have a really interesting guest on today's show today, a guy under the name of Dr. Jesse Green. So you might be wondering, what's a doctor doing on a show about web marketing? Well, in actual fact, this is why Jesse's so interesting, is that he used to be a dentist. Well, he still is actually a dentist, although he doesn't really work as a dentist anymore, which is what he's come to talk about on today's show, because he's the founder of a program called Practice Max, where he helps other dentists get more profits and more clients from their dental practice using online as well as offline marketing strategies. So, welcome to today's show, Dr. Jesse Green.
Hey, Ilana, thanks so much for having me. It's an absolute treat to be here with you today.
Nice. Thank you so much for coming. So, as you know, we talk about all things web marketing, and you're no stranger to this space, being a participant in this online marketing world. So, by way of kind of, background, I love to hear people's story. Can you give us a bit of your background to how you kind of enter this world?
Yeah.
Online marketing, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all. Entering the world. Well, there's my mum and dad. We'll spare your audience those gory details. But anyway, back to the online marketing. So I am a dentist by profession, and in 2008 we were in Canberra here, and we'd gotten to a point where our practice was going really well, and we had some compelling reasons to move and to sell. So we sold our house, we sold our business, and we moved to Queensland, Brisbane, which is home for me. And when I moved up there with my wife and daughters, my wife said to me, look, I just don't really want to have a practice for a while. I'm a little bit done with that, and let's just do something different for a while, which was fine. And so after about 3 months of doing nothing, I got bored pretty quickly. I have a bit of a probably undiagnosed ADD or something like that. I'm just a little bit all over, got to do something. So I started, trawling the bookshelves, and I read this book on internet marketing, and before long I was, building affiliate sites, selling all sorts of random dodgy products, fertility guides, through ClickBank, and how to build sheds and all sorts of things.
Chicken coop.
I know, it was weird, like all these weird random products, which, I'd gone through the ClickBank stats and looked at what was selling, created a landing page and, all those sorts of things, and then had to drive traffic to it. And so that was how I dipped my toe in the water. And after a while, a couple of my friends up in Brisbane said, oh, you know how to build a website, you know what a crown is. Can you build us a dental practice website? Yeah. Can you get some traffic? Yeah. So we ran some SEO campaigns, PPC things, and we sent them some traffic, and got the phone to ring, and we did a couple of campaigns with an orthodontist up there, and that proved to be really successful. And this was in the 2009, 2010 sort of stuff, and it was kind of almost the Wild West in a sense. And
Absolutely.
And it was great. It was fun. It was really good. So that's how I came to have my start in that. And you and I hang out in some similar circles, and so even though I don't run that agency anymore for marketing agency for dentists per se, I'm still very interested in the latest and greatest and what's happening in the digital marketing space. And so I've kept a fairly close eye on the trends and what's been happening. But that's how I kind of got into it, and it's been fun. It's been a journey.
Yeah, interesting. It's not often that you hear, a dentist sort of profession where you go to university for a long period of time, and once you graduate, that's the start of your career. And I guess it's not really a common story that someone like yourself would sell a practice and then pursue other avenues. I mean, normally that's when you graduate and you start running your dental practice, that would be sort of a road that you're committed to.
Yeah, it is. And part of that commitment, maybe I'm a commitment phobe in lots of ways. It's my 15th wedding anniversary today, so clearly I don't have commitment issues.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. But I think you're right. I think for most dentists, it's, I graduate and then I'm going to be doing this for the next 30, 40 years. And for me, that in 2008, we had a really successful practice. We were making good money, and I was as unhappy as can be. At that point, I realized that my business model was broken, but I didn't quite know how to fix it. And it was actually through the internet marketing space and learning about, building that agency that I realized some of the mistakes I made in my dental practice and went, if only I'd known that, I perhaps wouldn't have gotten to that point in 2008 where I was feeling stressed and burned out and tired, although, making good money, that I perhaps could have avoided that situation. And so as we've got our second practice now, we do things wholly differently based on what I learned building a marketing agency off the back of that initial internet marketing experience. It's been a very rewarding experience for me to be involved in digital marketing. And but as you say, not the typical journey. But I just thought the idea of sitting in a box for 40 years was going to be enough to kill me.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that your business model was broken. I mean, do you mind just sort of touching on which aspect of that business model you felt was flawed?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So in dentistry, there's practice management courses around and so on. And I followed all the teachings that were, around at the time and still around. And what I realized is that I was creating self-employment rather than business. And so ultimately for me, what happened is that, yes, we're making good money, but it was largely reliant upon my personal exertion. And that if I took a holiday, so too did the revenue, but the expenses, I should say, did not. So we had this situation where when I took a holiday, we'd have this impact on the bottom line, which meant taking holidays became less fun because you're always worried about what the bank balance was going to do. And I just felt that I was on the treadmill, and it was kind of like the golden handcuffs. I describe it like that. It was like you're making good money, but you got to have to be on this treadmill for a while. And so I was in self-employment as opposed to business ownership, and it was through extricating myself away from dentistry and looking at another industry, marketing and online stuff. I thought, you know what, I don't come into this with preconceived ideas. I don't come into this with any knowledge on how to do it. And so I didn't come in with bad habits that needed to be undone or accepted dogma because I didn't know any of that. And so when I was talking to various people in that space, I just happened to get some really good teaching up front, for which I'm very grateful.
Yeah, nice. So how long have you been doing this dental consulting for?
Oh, look, really about, 2017 now? So I would say in earnest 3.5 years or so. And that grew off the back of the internet marketing, actually, because what happened with the agency, the marketing agency is, we got people's phones to ring. And because most dentists sit there and go, you know what, I just want more patients, or, for most small businesses, I just want more clients. If I've got more clients, everything is fixed. And sure, that's definitely, helpful. There's no doubt about the fact that more clients is good. But what we found when I delivered more clients to these people is it highlighted other problems in their practice. And so the systems were strained, the staff couldn't quite cope, there wasn't a sales process in there, and all of those things that go into running an effective business. Those deficiencies were highlighted when we just basically added a whole lot more patients into the practice. And from there, people would go, well, hang on, Jesse, how do I now cope with my recall system, or how do I cope with this system, or what do I do with my team? And so in essence, what I did is I went back through my processes, updated them, and changed things around as I'd learnt new things, and that turned out the prototype for the business I now run.
Yeah, awesome. So obviously, being a former dentist yourself, you are no doubt equipped to help people, other fellow dentists, grow their practice. But, often that's not always the case with building your own business, consulting business to a success. So how have you really kind of got the word out there for this consulting business?
Well, it's been a combination of things, Alana. I'd say that, there hasn't been one single thing that's, been, the magic bullet, so to speak. It's been a combination of, content marketing.
Yep.
It's been, probably starting with the fact that I'm a dentist, I know the industry well, and having that relatability always helps. So that vertical that we spoke about off air is really important for me because I understand the market really well. I understand the pain points. I understand the challenges. And because we still have a dental practice, I walk a mile in those shoes every day. Now, I fully understand and accept that not everyone is in the position that I'm in where they can go into that, vertical and consult to an industry that they have that kind of relationship with. But really it came back to content marketing. It's perhaps not as fashionable as it used to be, but building an authority blog, driving traffic to it, getting eyeballs on it, slowly but surely building that, engaging in discussions in Facebook groups, providing quality content and answering questions, and really, again, understanding the frustrations that my ideal customer would be having, and speaking about those, and talking about the solutions, running a podcast. We do some paid traffic for events and so on, so we've been quite adept at driving traffic through Facebook, and good SEO practices as well.
Yeah, nice.
So it's been a mix.
Yeah, so with your content marketing, do you also amplify that content marketing with some paid traffic as well? That's a common kind of marketing strategy people do. Have you dabbled with that?
Look, I have to tell you, we have so many things that we can and should be doing, and that is in the can and should be doing bucket.
Yeah, don't we all?
But yeah, and so I know that I should be doing that. I know how to do it. I just haven't done it. But so for the listeners here, please, this is one of those situations where I'd say, do as I say, not as I do.
Well, it sounds like you haven't needed to, really.
Well, we haven't really needed to. So we've just found that what we've been good at. What we've been good at is joining various groups. Becoming a thought leader in those groups, providing quality content into those groups on a regular basis. And I'd like to say that we've added value. And, there are other really good, people in those groups as well who deliver solid content. And so what that's been able, for me personally, is to develop good relationships with people as well. So there's been the opportunity to partner with some other people in as a result of that. Mm-hmm. And it's been a symbiotic relationship where, you go into those discussions wanting to genuinely add value. It was never driven just by a cynical marketing, hey, I'm going to go to this group and post stuff and people are going to love me. That was never, ever it. It was genuinely, how can I add value to this audience? How can I genuinely add value to this conversation? And there are times, there's this whole thread of conversation where I might have a view, but someone else has expressed that view. So I don't chime in and go, yeah, me too, because it's already been said. So it's about, for me, understanding the value of actually giving good quality content in a timely manner, not being egotistical about it. And I say that very cautiously because I don't want to come across that way at all. But sometimes I don't have anything good to add, so I just don't. But when I do, I like to add some value if I can. And Lana, I should also point out that dentistry has given me everything, literally everything. So dentistry has given me a living, it's given me a wife because my wife's a dentist. Therefore, it's also given me
kids.
I know. Easter's hell for them, isn't it? I mean, trick or treat? Nah, we're not doing it.
No lollies.
No lollies ever. It's Brussels sprouts for you for the rest of your life. So the poor kids. But, really, dentistry has given me everything. And so I guess the reason I'm telling you that is because I feel genuinely indebted to the profession, and therefore I genuinely want to add value. So it's not going into these groups from a marketing perspective. It's about, one human being just trying to offer some sort of insight that might be helpful for others. And that's really it.
And I think you're right. People can spot someone who is really just trying to make a sale, especially in a group setting, even an online group setting. There's sort of, me personally, I can spot these tactics that some people do to sort of try and sell people, etc. And I think people can just smell it from a mile away,
Yeah, it's just the old story, I can't remember who said it, but Australians have got a fairly good BS detector. They can smell it from a mile off. Yes. And, I reckon that's pretty true.
Yeah, interesting. So these groups that you participate in, are they paid groups or they're free groups?
No, they're free groups. And, there's different, my audience are in those groups. So clearly I'm both a contributor to those groups and a beneficiary of those groups from the point of view that other people share some good ideas and go, yeah, actually, that could really help me too. So again, I feel like there's a bit of a two-way street there. It's not all about, me delivering great, amazing value to people, because that's not the case. It's very much a two-way exchange where, there are times when I'm able to support the group and offer some useful content, but there's also times when other people are able to offer some useful content for me, and I go, actually, that's a good idea. I need to take that on board as well. So it's been really helpful in lots of different ways. So groups for us has been really important, and they're Facebook groups as opposed to LinkedIn groups. So it's been mainly Facebook.
Yeah, interesting. Discussion. Would you say that's kind of your best converting traffic channel? I guess it'd be pretty hard to track though, that wouldn't it?
That's really hard to track. The traffic channel that I know works well for us, and again, this is part of the whole content strategy. You know, I can get some stats on our podcast, and so certainly, you know, we've been tracking our podcast stats, and they've been increasing. And of course, we distribute and syndicate our content, you know, through various social media channels, you know, independently of those groups. And so that's been really helpful. As we will take our blog and our podcast, and we'll share that. You know, Jen Shin, who you would know, is quite big on sharing content at, you know, different times, and so we've kind of followed us a little bit of it. We've got our own version of that you know, timing of how we post stuff, and so we've followed some of that stuff around.
Do you, I guess, automate that syndication, or it's?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. So we use Social Report to syndicate that and automate that. And that allows us to get some good statistics and, you know, understand what's working and what's not. We do track a lot of things, and certainly we've got a team member dedicated to doing all of that. And so we get some really good market intelligence about, you know, what's resonating and what's not. So in fact, just this morning I was looking at our podcast stat, and we recently did an episode on de-stressing your business, and that was really, really popular. I could see the stats on that. It's had a lot of listens, a lot of engagement, you know, in the various social channels, and, you know, that was obviously a topic that resonated with people. So we do definitely look at the statistics that, you know, allow us to then make better decisions to move forward.
I guess, and from that insight, you know, as you say, the de-stressing episode, what would you do? Would you then, so I guess, create more content around that?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So what we do with the blog is, so we'll take, with the podcast, I beg your pardon, is we'll take the podcast, we'll have that transcription, and we have, you know, timestamps on that transcription, and the timestamps is a new thing for us. But so typically we'll take the podcast, get it transcribed. We will then create our own blog post, not as a word for word, you know, rehash of that clearly, but we'll create a blog post on and around the same topic, bring in other resources around that. Then we'll create, you know, little tweets and little snippets to share in other, you know, channels, maybe an image for Instagram and so on. And then we'll share all of that content around through the various channels at different times. And that's been quite helpful for us.
Yeah, nice. I guess that's I'm doing the same with this podcast, you know, leveraging one piece of content into so many different forms. As business owners, it's impossible to do literally everything. So it's a great way to leverage one form of content into lots of many different forms.
Yeah, well, you think about one podcast becomes a blog, or that blog can become an article if you wanted, or it could become a tweetable, or it could become a Facebook post. You know, there's so many ways that you can just use the content. And yeah, my experience is as well, and you're probably better qualified to answer this than me, but my experience is that a lot of people create a lot of content but then don't really leverage it as well. And so they're in this content creation mode, and that becomes tiring, and then they stop.
Yeah.
And so, whereas I'm all about trying to get as much juice from the lemon as possible and really, you know, squeeze it out.
Yeah, nice. And I can see on your Practice Max website that you offer a free strategy session as sort of, I guess, your main offer. Have you experimented with a different kind of offer, or do you find most people that's what they want?
Look, we're running some testing at the moment with different things, whether we do that as a free or a paid session. And so far, we don't really have enough data to, you know, determine whether that's making a difference or not. And with the paid session, we donate that money anyway, so it's not profit for us. It's just contributing elsewhere. So we've done a free and paid version test on that. In terms of other things that we've done, you know, quizzes and self-assessments and other things. They're okay, but what I've found, again, for us, is people just want to talk. And so for us, it's very easy to get on the phone and have a conversation with someone and, you know, do that session. And really the purpose of that strategy session is to, you know, genuinely help people. And it's, you know, about delivering as much value as we can in that, you know, half hour or thereabouts. And then if something comes from that, that's great. But if not, then, you know, we like to feel we've done a little bit of good, and that person leaves that conversation better for it. But we then, you know, would essentially, you know, find out if we're a fit with people, and if we're a fit, then we could take it to the next step if that's appropriate. But that would be a different conversation and a different call at a different time.
And
people come into that strategy session, they can't buy anything, is what I'm trying to say. Like even if they said, "Here, Jesse, here's my money, take it," we don't take it. We're very big on fit.
Right. So that you put them through some kind of questionnaire or something, do you?
Exactly, yeah. So filters, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess that's the power of really honing in on a vertical, as we spoke about before we hit record, that you know exactly who you're talking to, and you can be so focused in who is your ideal customer or client.
The ideal client thing, I think, is, everyone talks about it, everyone knows it, but I reckon most people don't do it that well. Again, that's just an opinion. I'm happy to be told I'm wrong on that, but my experience is that when push comes to shove, the whole ideal client thing tends to get a little bit rubbery because people go, well, they're not exactly my ideal client, but I kind of need the cash, and therefore I'll take on that client. And more often than not, again, my experience is that when I've taken on a client who wasn't the best fit, it was frustrating for them and frustrating for me, meaning that we just weren't the right fit for each other. And it doesn't mean that they're a bad person or I'm a bad person. It's just meant that it's not the right fit. And so we then quickly determine that and refer them off to someone who might be a better fit. And again, we try to at least add that value where we can go, you know what, this is perhaps not the best fit after all. Let's point you in the direction of someone who might be able to help you better than we can, given where you are.
Yeah. Look, I can relate. I do this all the time, especially because from an AdWords perspective, it's not a cheap traffic channel. And
No.
And if someone, for whatever reason, and they're all legitimate, doesn't want to spend that kind of money with Google directly, not even with an agency, it's something you just can't be half pregnant with. So do something else, unless you're going to test it properly. So I will turn people away regularly who aren't prepared to kind of properly commit to something for whatever reason, just like someone might be not ideal for you for lots of very legitimate reasons. It's a really powerful thing that for the longevity of your business and the happiness of people that decide not to work together.
Yeah, and I think it serves both parties as well, because from the client's perspective, they don't want to be investing time and money in something that's not going to deliver them exactly what they're looking for. But from the business owner, from your perspective or my perspective in dealing with a client, is we live and die by our reputation to be able to get results for people.
Absolutely.
And so for us, if we've got someone who's not the right fit, they're harder to work with, it's harder to get results, and that ultimately hurts our business too. And so I'm quite strong on the idea that if someone's not getting what they need and want from their interaction with us, then I think we call that early, and we make other arrangements for them to receive the type of care that they need, but elsewhere.
I guess possibly something that you could experiment with is putting that questionnaire before the strategy session, maybe, just so it's even more filtered before they even get to the strategy session, right? Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely do it that way. And we're actually in the process of creating a web-enabled version of that questionnaire now, but it's, as I find with a lot of projects, they seem to take longer than I first anticipate. So frustrating.
Anyway, but that's probably me. Anyway, I'm probably the common denominator in that.
Well, Jesse, I am mindful of your precious time, so I think we might wrap it up there. And thank you so much for coming on today's show. You've been very generous with your knowledge and expertise. So lastly, where can people find out a little bit more information about you?
Sure. Well, firstly, thanks for having me. I'm very grateful to come and have a chat with you, Alana. It's always good, and I always feel better for the interaction. But for those that want to find more about me, you can either find me at my website, drjessegreen.com, or alternatively, come and have a listen to the Savvy Dentist podcast. You can find us in iTunes pretty easily, and we'd love to say hello. So drop us a line and say good day.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jesse. Always a pleasure talking to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Alana. Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to the Teach Traffic podcast. For more information on each of these episodes and handy PDFs that you can download, head on over to teachtraffic.com.